So let's look at our Excel assignment 1. In this assignment, you're going to need to create a spreadsheet called, an order form basically called Camping As Us. You're going to order some items from this company. Now, one of the things that you need to do is lay it out, because as you see this information, and I'm going to highlight this information here isn't necessarily going to go in exactly how it looks. Sometimes we get information, we write it down, and just because we write it down a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that the information should go in that way. I want you to read this assignment over carefully first. As with all assignments that I give you, I want you to look at them, read them, go through the information. Anything that doesn't make sense, email me. But I think it's pretty self-explanatory, because I'm going to look at your spreadsheet and I'm going to look to see that the numbers and the formulas work. One of the things you cannot do in this is, let's say that these two pairs of Ultra Trek socks, when I click into this formula that gives me the total for that order, for that line, I don't want to see 1780 in that, or 90. I want to see the formula for 2 times 895. So it's important to know that. That what we're doing here is we're creating a spreadsheet so that we can go in and have Excel do the calculations for us. Again, anytime you're creating this kind of document, lay it out on paper first. Secondly, treat it as if you're going to be using this document again. So treat it as a template. Work with this document as if it's going to be used over and over and over again. So one of the first things we need to do is read through all of this, go through it, make sure you understand what it's asking, because we're going to be doing some other formatting stuff here in this. We're not just going to put this information in there. We're going to get grand totals. We're going to be asking you for tax, the price of the tax. We're going to ask you to add that, things like that. So let's get started. What I did is, here's my open office. Here's my open office document. So I need to be able to use this and work at the same time. So I'm just going to come off to the side here. What I need to do is put in some info. Now, one of the things that I can do that makes my life easier is I know that I can copy and paste some information right from the Word document, so I don't have to type over and over and over again, which is perfect. Also, one of the things I'm going to do is I need to see that I have columns with headers that have quantity, description, size, unit price, and total price. I don't necessarily want this information in this order either, because a lot of times we want to group information that's going to be used together. So what do I mean by that? Well, I don't necessarily want quantity to be the first thing that pops up in this description, because I'm going to need quantity over here by unit price and total price. Description and size, we can use those two things. You can have size first or description first, but let's do this. In this case, I'm going to put description. So I'm just going to Control C. I'm going to come here. I'm going to go Control V, and hopefully description goes there. Next, I want size. So I'm going to just come over here, Control C. I'm going to put size in there. Okay. Start thinking about how you want this information laid out, because we know we're going to have to insert some rows and things. So don't worry about that, but be aware that those are some of the things that you're going to have to do. I want quantity to come next. Now, it is perfectly acceptable. I'm going to paste that. It's perfectly acceptable to make quantity just QTY or QNTY, but make sure that it's, the appropriate abbreviation for it. I'm going to center that as well. Yuck, yuck, yuck. I'll click out and then click back in, and it will give me my quantity. And then I want unit price, and then how about total price? Because these two things are going to be completely different. Also, notice that the font is different here. Okay, let's go ahead and make all of this, let's see, we'll just go with Arial for right now, and let's go with 12. Okay, so this is our descriptions, quantity, size, and unit price. Again, I'm going to go ahead I'm going to just click on this one, center it, and I'm going to do the same with this. Okay. Now for descriptions, I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet, and I'm just going to come in here and say silk long underwear, and I want to say female. I'm going to put that in there because that might be an issue, and we'll see why in a minute. Silk underwear female. Oops, let's make sure we get in here and complete that, female. Size, let's go back to size. And so what I want you to do now is I want you to go in and set all of this information up, pause the video, set all the information up with the exception of unit price. Okay, so I want you to go in, take all this information and put it in here. You're going to end up with some issues, and we're going to tackle those in a minute. So go ahead and just put this information in, and when you come back, we'll go ahead and restart, and we'll see where we made some mistakes, or where we didn't make mistakes, but the computer program made some assumptions. Okay, so you put your information in, and you probably had some problems with sizes. You'll notice that when I went to put in 10-12, what came up was the date, 10-12-08. Right now what's happening is this is in a different format. We need to change the formatting of this number right here into text. We don't want it to be anything other than text. We don't want it to treat it as a number because we want 10-12, which represents a size range, and we don't want it to be a number. And in this case, what's happening is that the number is being switched to a date. So we're going to change this to text, hit OK, and then we get this weird stuff here. But if I go back and set 9-12, it comes up to be a size. And then it also, notice that the alignment changes to the left. When we are working with numbers, it always aligns everything to the right. You'll notice that in our quantities, and you'll also notice that in our price. So let's go in here. We're going to change this formatting. So we'll come down here. We'll change it to text. We'll say OK. This was supposed to be 6-8. And then finally, we'll do the same thing here. Now, we could have done this. We could copy this, Control-C, go here, and paste it there. And it would say, you're pasting a number. Are you sure you want to do that? And we would say yes. So we could do one of two things. Also, you'll notice that we have our unit price here. Doesn't look like money, does it? So we want to change that to money. And this is the currency format. Because what happens if we have, this is $98, it takes the decimal points away. So what we want to do is we're going to change all of this. In fact, all I'm going to do is select all of this and do one group change so that it's all currency. Okay? You'll notice that our women's female silk underwear is more expensive than a large men's. So ladies, we can get all upset all we want, but sometimes in the real world it costs us more. For some reason it costs women more to dry clean shirts than it does men. They say something about pleatings or something, but I don't know. Anyway, but this is what we're stuck with. Also, if you were in here and you had Ultra Trek socks, you could just copy and paste this down and you wouldn't have to have typed it twice. The same thing with the long underwear female. I'm just going to copy and paste this like this. And all I did with this is when I went back in here and I just deleted the FE and changed it to male. So that I'm trying not to make a lot of work for myself. Okay? The idea here isn't to make more work for yourself. It's actually to make less work for yourself. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a formula. And this is going to be our first time when we're working with something other than addition. So one of the things I want to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start with equals. We always start with the equal symbol, parentheses, and I'm going to say D2 times, and our asterisk is our times symbol. We can't use a period. We can't use a dot. Asterisk is the default multiplier here in Excel. So I'm saying D2 times C2. And since this equation is the same forward and backwards, I really don't have to worry about it being correct. So 32 times 1 is still the same as 32 as 1 times 32. So that doesn't matter. It changes it to a community. It changes it to this property. Here's my formula. as long as I know that this formula is correct, I can click and drag this formula down and it will do all of the math for me. What do you know? So if I look here, if this formula says D4 times C4, what's happening here is that the formulas change as the row changes. Okay, this is a relative formula. It's relative to its place and the information that it's given, and it automatically is going to change. So as we move locations, it will change formula locations as well. It's making an assumption right there. So again, it's making an assumption that you want that formula to change. Okay, so as long as you know you've done the math right, and we know that this is correct, 2 times 849 is 1698. We're good. You could probably save this now, and the instructions tell you how to save it, but let's go ahead and do some more, because we need to do some more stuff here to make this form complete. All right, so go ahead and save it as last name. Actually, don't save it as the first name here. Go ahead and just save it as your last name underscore. In fact, I want you to save it as Excel. Let me take those capitals off. Excel assignment 1. Okay. Or how about this? Let's take Excel out, because I know this is going to be a spreadsheet, because it's just going to go in as a spreadsheet. It's going to have the spreadsheet icon, GUI, when you save it. So last name underscore assignment 1 Excel. I want you to name the worksheet My Order, and what that means is down here where you see sheet 1, I want you to double click on that, or right mouse click and rename the sheet and say My Order. I believe that's what it said to change it to. Yeah. So now your worksheet down here in the corner, the tab, should say My Order. In fact, what this is a workbook, because when it first opens up, Excel opens up what's called a workbook. So we have 3 worksheets that normally come in an Excel workbook. This tells you, the assignment next tells you to delete all other worksheets in the file. So what you're going to do is you're going to right mouse click on sheet 2, hit delete sheet, and it'll remove it. Or it's going to say, are you sure you want to do that? I'm panicking. You say yes. And the same with the 3rd worksheet, delete that. And it's going to say, are you sure? And I'm going to say yes. Okay? So now we've got the quantity already set up. We entered our data. We resized the description column to fit the text, so we're good there. Now we need to do some stuff. Now we need to subtotal the order, enter a description, and use a formula with reference cells to create a subtotal. So let's do that. So on line, let's say line 11, we're going to say, actually, let's go right here and say subtotal. So in this, we're going to say subtotal in D11, cell D11. Okay. Now remember, Excel only does what you tell it to do, and at this point we want it to add everything. So we're going to go over here to our favorite key, AutoSum. And it goes, oh, you want to AutoSum all of this? And we're going to say, well, yes, but not quite. We want to click in here. We don't want 10 in here because 9 and 10 really have nothing of value, and we don't want to make any mistakes with our sheet. So we're just going to say, you know what, we want you to AutoSum E2 through E8. So eliminate 9 and 10 out of the equation, hit enter, and there's our subtotal. So it's $336.08. Now we've got some more to do. It says, oh, we need to figure out the tax. So our tax rate, we're going to use a formula with a cell reference to calculate the tax on our order, and the tax rate is 8%. Okay. I want you to think about this because oftentimes we can find ourselves getting in trouble. So I'm going to say tax right here, and it said to go ahead and use a cell reference. So I'm going to say tax, and then right here I'm going to put 8%. Now, 8% of 100. If I set 8 here and I hit the percent key, notice it gives me 800%. That's wrong. We're going to really screw that up if we wanted to pay 8% in tax. If I put 0.8, is that going to work? No, because now that's 80% tax. So let's take that out. it needs to be 0.08. Basically 8 cents on the dollar. So we have a tax of 8% represented that way. So now in this equation we need to write a formula that says we want to know what the tax rate is, the total tax on $336. So what's that going to look like? Well, let's try this. Equals, parentheses, I can say E11 times D12, hit enter, and that's my tax. Because what I'm taxing is the 8%. I'm taxing this by 8% to get $26.89. You can't divide it. We need to tax it. Now, if we were going to be adding the tax rate to the total, that would be different. But what we're doing is we want to know how much we're paying in tax. So that's our tax. If this changes, it's an easy change to make. I can come in here and say, okay, I want it to be 8.5%. Hit enter, and notice what happened. My tax rate changed. It went from 26 to 28.57. So that's why we do this. That's why we reference a cell, because if at some point in the future our tax rate changes, it's easy enough for us to go in and make that change. Okay? And then notice how our tax rate went back down. Okay, so what do our instructions tell us to do next? It says the dollar amount should be formatted as, use a formula to reference and calculate your order total, including the tax. Okay? So now I need a total. So all I'm going to say here is total, and then I'm going to come here, and you got it, auto sum. I'm going to take 13 out and just go with 12. Hit enter, and there's my total for the order. So that's my total. So far, so good. It's going to tell us to do a few more things, and I'm not going to, I'll let you do that. We've already formatted. We want to insert a row at the top. Okay, inserting a row is pretty easy. Remember, what we're going to do is I'm going to click here. I'm just going to click on the 1. I'm going to right mouse click, hit insert row, and there you go. That's insert row. It's going to tell us we need to put camping or us right here, and we need to merge those cells and do that. So all I did was, once I selected all the cells, and that's left mouse click and drag across, I hit merge. Okay, so I have now one big merged cell where I can put camping or us. And then the one last thing I want to show you is I want you to follow the directions, but the next thing I want you to look at is it says we can go in and put a pattern in there, add shading to the column headers. Remember that when we do that, I want to select the column headers. I'm going to right mouse click once I've selected those and go to Format Cells. This is where all your formatting is done when you right mouse click on the format. So you'll notice I can change my font, I can put font effects, I can work the alignment right there. Here's where I add borders. So if I want a border around it, I can put borders. I can select a border if I want a border around it, and then I can select the size of border, and this gives me a representation of what that border looks like. And I can put in a background. I can put in a color, and I can put in a pattern. I just want you to be real careful about when you start to add things. I don't want them to be confusing, so be real careful. So this is where you get to add those colors and borders and things like that. Okay. If you have a shadow, it's going to call for a shadow. This is where you would add that shadow. So if I said OK, well, here's what it looks like. So here's the shadow, and here's the border color. These are some of those things that the instructions will tell you what to do and how to do it. The next and final thing is to insert some clip art. Now, it's going to say from file because this doesn't have any real clip art. So you'll have to find some clip art on your computer, or you can go online and get a little image and insert it. Make sure you follow the directions, finish this up, align the prices, left align the descriptions, do all of those things, and then again, remember we're going to save this as your last name _ assignment1 or assign1, either one. And then you're going to submit this. Actually, I don't want you to submit it. I want you to save it in your folder for the week. Okay? So if you have any questions, email me, give me a call. If you get confused, stop the video, rewatch it, and see if you can catch what's confusing you. Otherwise, make an office hour to come by and see me. I hope you enjoyed this video and it was helpful to you.